I bet you think I've been busy, don't you? But this isn't the finished painting. There we are underneath. This is just to show you the image in the next stage for how we would match the red that we've got in the cherry. So you've got to try and decide when you're looking at your painting or your subject which pigments are going to be best to do it. So for this red, if we used a cad red, I mean this is a cad red, but this is a cad red light, so it's slightly warmer anyway, but you can see how it's quite orangey. If we have a look at that, it's very orange. I mean, you might be able to use a touch of it in here, and it could be quite handy for some mixtures. So what I might do with that, I might just put a bit over here that we might use later, but it's not going to be the essential paint to use for this. We need something that's got more of a purpley undertone. So if we look at this crimson, which is from Winsor & Newton, the artist acrylics, this is a paint swatch that are often on artist quality paints, and they're very good because they can show you how the paint looks when it's on top of, say, black, which is always printed on the tube, which just helps you to show its opacity, you know, its coverage. If you look at these two here, you'll see that the cadmium has a lot more coverage than the crimson. For painting this, often I'd work in layers and kind of build up layers, so this is going to be quite handy, and when you look at it you see it's a lot closer just in its raw form than the cadmium red light. To match this colour on here, what I often look at is what's called the local colour, and that is what locally that whole area is. So if you squint your eyes at the picture, you kind of get a general feeling of the tone of that whole area. Not any of the details, not if it goes dark, not any of this colour under here, but just the general feeling of it. So for this, if we start with this red, okay, and this is just exactly that comes from the tube. So we can see it's quite good. This it might even be a bit too strong, a bit too much punch into it. So what we could do is add a little bit of the burnt umber. That's got that nice deep colour. I mean, that's going to be great for here in this shadow area. So to start with, I think this will be great to start. We've just used that and a tiny bit of the burnt umber, and we can start painting it in and try and judge the tones from there. So this is just called a glaze, where you have a thin layer of paint that goes over another. It's like trying to have a very thin translucent layer of coloured glass, like a stained glass window effect, that you put over objects. So you see how what it does is it tones down the burnt umber that we had underneath it, but still lets some of that colour, you know, subtly come through. So you see how when I'm working this, I'm kind of working around it as, you know, as a round, you know, I'm kind of as if the light's hitting this middle, and that's where all the attention is going to be. So I'm just trying to build a form, you know, it's essentially just a sphere that you're just trying to model. So now for the next colour, Of course, if I'm painting, I wouldn't be stopping so much in between. I'll be kind of working as one, but you start to see this lighter area up here on the cherry. So what we can do is leave some of this as our base colour, and instead of using the white to lighten it, I'll show you what happens when you use the white. You see how the white always brings out the pinky hues. If we have a look at this again, you see how that's gone way off. You know, when you have white on something, especially in pinks, it always goes towards blues or or purples. So this isn't going to work for this mass area of here. So the only other option you've got to lighten it, if you haven't got white, is you've got to have another pigment that is lighter. So your option is either to use this red that we've got here, which goes towards yellow. You know, it's a warmer red. Or if you didn't have any of that red, you'd use cadmium yellow light, which is a warm yellow, which will help to warm this up. But because we've got a bit of this red here, I'm just going to show you the difference between what happens when we have, I'll mix a bit more. Remember that mix was just the crimson, a bit of burnt umber. Okay, when we have a look at that, we can see that's still way too bright. It's amazing, you know, how that it is so subtle. It looks like it's a lot brighter than it actually is. But this still is great for those highlights. So what we can do is keep some of this down here. Mix some more of this crimson in. I start to see how this is getting a closer tone to what we're after. So when we look at it there, we can see actually it's, this still is a bit too red. We've got to kind of knock it down a bit. Okay, and that looks great. So bearing in mind that acrylics are always going to dry darker than they first appear, because of this we might add a tiny touch of white, just a little speck on the end. And that will give us a good base. Once we've got a nice base with this red, we can start to add some more details and bring the cherry to more of a finish in the next lesson.